Awesome. Hey, well, thanks for jumping on the show, guys. I appreciate it. Super stoked to talk to you all.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, this is great. It almost kind of seems like radio is like a dying breed, you know?
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it was like kind of a big deal. More so like when you guys were coming up. Would you say so, or?
Well,
Oh yeah,
that's
you
yeah. Go
yeah,
ahead,
you
Tom.
wanted to get your stuff on the radio. I mean, that was your main goal.
Yeah,
Not so more anymore. You're not be on
yeah,
everything else but the radio.
yeah,
Really.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, when we were coming up, college radio was just kind of kicking off with they were the first ones to really pick like new wave and punk and the new music. So that's how we got our music out at that point. And
yeah,
that's the other thing, like mainstream radio in Chicago. I don't know how it was in LA back in the late 70s, early 80s, but it was very closed off. They didn't want to play any new music. The only
yeah,
places that would play new music were the college radio stations. So that's where we focused, and that's where we heard all the good stuff. That's where we
yeah.
heard all the coming from.
Was there like a main one, or were there a couple different stations? Like,
The
how
the,
did that
fir-
go?
the very first.
WNUR was the main.
You're right. Out of Northwestern, we had WNUR, we had WZRD. Uh, we also out of
A2K.
right. There
Right.
was I forgot the call letters, but there was a radio station called Triad out of Rockford.
Uh-huh.
And they were the very first ones to really play some of the new punk and new music coming up.
Underground. Yeah.
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 So we actually heard them, and then the other stations started playing the new music too. So
Yeah.
that's how we discovered all this stuff, really.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean it's a great format. Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. Is that kind of how you guys got into like this kind of music, punk and hard rock and whatnot, or
It
Pretty
was
yeah,
much.
more.
mainly?
It was one of the punk clubs that got me into it.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Yeah,
wow.
there were the dance clubs we had in Chicago. Was Lemaire was the first one, and then Oz, and a couple
Albanian.
Albanians, right? And they would
Right.
spin. They had punk nights where they would spin new wave and punk, and then the bands in the Chicago area came after that. But it was really college radio that kind of
Right.
introduced us to it. I mean, we saw things in the newspapers about the Pistols, and all that, but
Right, right.
and heard about the Ramones a little bit. But then college radio is really what brought it out to people, and that's how we all the other people in the scene we met
Right.
discovered that music through that.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's almost interesting. Like you look at people talk about punk rock and whatnot. They're always going to mention California, New York, DC also, but I feel like Chicago is a little less talked about. Do you have any idea for why, or would you agree with that?
I would agree with it because our scene wasn't very big at all.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, I mean,
uh, it had trouble taking foothold here in the Midwest like it did on the coast. But actually, the New York scene wasn't much to brag about other than the early CBGB stuff.
Right.
But every time we went there, I mean, New York wasn't like the bastion of punk rock you think it would have be. It would have
Right.
been.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, LA was always every time we went to LA, or that was like a huge scene. I mean,
Yeah.
bands would be playing, the Santa Monica Civic Center, or the Olympic
Yeah.
Auditorium. I
Right.
mean, just thousands of people were into it. In
Yeah.
Chicago was extremely conservative town back then, very closed down conservative city,
Mhm.
machine politics. As soon as you try to get out of line, they step on you like a bug.
Yeah.
So the punk thing really it slowly came up, and people like to nostalgize, that era, but it was really difficult to kind of get it off the ground, really. So
Right.
Yeah, Minnesota had one of the better scenes around.
yeah,
Right.
Good bands
Minneapolis
came out of there.
yeah, that was
Yeah.
a great town to play. They had some great bands, and that was really a fun place to play.
I said
Yeah.
they probably had the best scene in the Midwest.
Right.
Yeah.
Detroit, we used to go to Detroit. That was very
Right.
violent.
Right.
That
That's
was
all
a
like negative approach, necros, all that stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean
Yeah. Yeah.
that was a very violent kind of scene because you
Yeah.
had a big skinhead contingent there, and it was really, I mean, those
It
shows
was
were
rough.
pretty brutal.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so it was our towns we'd like to go to were Detroit, Minneapolis, and we rarely played Milwaukee, but we saw bands there. When bands were coming through that didn't play Chicago, we'd go up to Milwaukee to see the bands
Cool.
playing up there, you know.
Awesome. When I
Yeah.
was kind of doing some research on this, I stumbled upon that documentary. You weren't there. I'm sure you guys seen that and
Yes.
whatnot. I was wondering when I was watching it if there was anything it got completely wrong or just or maybe glanced over. Was there anything that kind of stuck out to you about that as not being accurate?
They didn't pay attention to me and Steven.
That's all right. No, no,
We got glossed over there, but no,
no,
it captured our era, our time period pretty well, I
Yeah,
thought. Um, we weren't there because, yeah, I mean, our scene was very, it was more like celebrated afterwards, like, oh yeah, all this great stuff, but why it was happening. It didn't seem
right.
like anybody gave a crap about what we were doing.
Yeah,
right.
But and it was very hard to quantify because you don't sell a lot of records, but you don't know how many mixtapes you were on back then. It's
right,
like
right.
you could have been on 10,000 mixtapes, or somebody recording your stuff and handing it off was such a big thing back then.
Yeah,
But I think the movie captured it pretty well. I think it was kind of funny. The filmmakers, people would say one thing, then the next scene would be another person kind of contradicting what they were saying. So
yeah,
they made it
Right.
humorous.
yeah,
Uh, so I think it captured it pretty well. The only thing I think it was that I didn't like about it was kind of turned into like a bitch fest at the end, where every
yeah,
old timers were like, slagging the new bands. I mean,
yeah,
that was kind of, I didn't like that,
yeah.
so.
I forget the name of the band, but there was one. It was like a bunch of kids. Do you remember that? Forget their name
Oh,
though.
well, Right to the Accused were
Yeah,
back
I
then.
think that was it. Yeah,
They
yeah,
were young, and we had a beef back then with the Articles of Faith, and when that movie came out, people kept asking about it, and I was like, I pretty much had no recollection of it. It's like,
yeah,
did we? I don't even remember, but I guess it was more of a thing that I realized.
yeah.
The
That's funny.
the band you're talking about was Jason Narducci was in that band. It was like a whole bunch of young,
Oh,
really
verboten, yeah,
it was verboten, yeah, and they were
yeah.
young
Right. Yep,
kids.
yep.
But he's gone on to do some really really good records and really good. He's a
And they
really
just put
good
out a
songwriter,
new record just at the same time we did.
Oh
What's
So
wow,
that?
I'll
they're
check it
back.
out.
They're back in action as well.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I mean, and but he plays with Bob Mould and he's got his own thing
Right.
going. So he's a really good songwriter, So
Yeah, yeah. That's awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I learned about a ton of new bands. It was really cool. But what were like? How many bands were there like originally? I know you said it was really small, like five, like more than that. Is it? You know what I mean?
Uh, there was always, I mean, the core of the Chicago scene that was in the Busted at Oz record, us and Naked Ray Gun, Strike
Right.
Under, and the Subverts, Silver Abuse. And
Was another.
we were that first wave of Oz bands that came out. We got very little notoriety till later on,
Right.
many years later. Uh, yeah, there was probably essentially maybe 10 bands.
Right.
And then more and more started coming up and, after us.
Right.
And
But
then,
yeah. But there was a difference in the scenes too. So the first bands that we were in, the first core group of bands, played the clubs. Then the
Right.
second core group of bands that came in started the all ages shows, and
Yeah.
that's when a lot of kids from the suburbs started coming in,
Right.
and the scene really grew after that.
Right.
So
And they were doing an all ages show. Was it before the 21 plus show? I remember seeing something like that. People would do that sometimes, two different shows back
yes,
to
right,
back or something.
right. They would have a really early show that was all ages.
Hmm.
Then they kick everybody out, and then it would be a 21 and over, after
Yeah.
that. So you'd
All
be
right.
playing two times. We did some all ages gigs, but the majority of the bands that did like all ages shows was kind of after our time, our initial,
yeah,
run.
there was barely any venues for us to play in the beginning, let
Right.
alone doing an all ages show.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Awesome.
it was even very hard to play the suburbs because the suburban clubs didn't allow original music. They
Oh,
wanted cover bands or tribute bands. So we have this we have this music paper called the Illinois Entertainer,
mhm,
and then back in the day, the back end would be nothing but tribute bands playing all these suburban clubs all over the place. So
right.
you get a Kiss band, you get a Led Zeppelin tribute band. It'd be
Yeah,
comical, but so there was really no area for original music to play out. You could only do that really kind of in the city. I mean, it's
yeah,
changed now, obviously, but back then it was pathetic. It was
yeah.
just ridiculous.
Did you ever try to pretend to be a cover band, then come in and tear the place up?
That would have been cool. We should have thought of that. We didn't
That's
do that.
funny.
Uh,
That's funny.
yeah.
Yeah, well, so when I was giving your guys' records a listen again, um, I kind of noticed a change in the sound. I don't know if it's attributed to like the change of guitarists, but like the first EP, Haunted Town. I mean, I noticed a different kind of style compared to like the next couple records. Was that more so just kind of getting tired of like the same old kind of punk rock sound, wanted to mix it up, or did it? What was kind
Yeah,
of
we
that
never
that
just
sound?
we just played what came. A lot of our stuff was punk influenced, and it influenced by metal, influenced by, but we never were like could call ourselves one certain thing, So
Yeah,
we used a lot of different influences, and the fact that stuff sounds a lot different. I mean, we were hoping for that. We don't want to keep
yeah,
putting out the same stuff, but
yeah.
Well,
I don't think we ever it was never contrived that way.
right. But I do agree that different guitar players bring a different kind of feel to it.
Oh, definitely. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, Earl was more like a hard rock metal guy, and the two Bobs that came behind him had different styles of playing. They're more blues influenced or
Yeah,
whatever. And then Andy now we're back into the kind of real rock sound. So
right. What happened to Earl? Why did he end up leaving the band?
uh, you know, after 4 years, we had a lot of ups and downs, and back then, after certain things, people grow apart. Him and John had they butted heads on a lot of things. Always a singer and a guitar player.
yeah,
Bass player and drummer have to deal with that nonsense all the time. But you
that's
know,
right.
so those two alpha dogs fighting over everything. But
All right.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it was. You get after a while, you just get sick of each other and just
and again, in hindsight, we probably made a lot of mistakes. We were young kids.
Yeah,
We were only 24
yeah.
at the time. So
When
um,
you're when you're in a van
in
all day, it
hindsight,
kind
we
of
probably would have done things differently, but
yeah, yeah. Cool.
can't dwell
Um,
on it.
yeah, right. And then so the original breakup, from what I understand, happened in 1986. Was that kind of what you guys were saying? Just kind of getting tired of the same old stuff, sitting in a van together all day? Kind of
Yeah,
that thing. Yeah.
our last tour for the album Inc. We got very little support from the record label. It was pretty much a disastrous tour. We felt pretty defeated. We felt that punk rock was dead, that the scene was dying. Just to get revived, like everything a year later broke
Yeah, right.
wide. But at the time, you get disappointed. You start pointing fingers at each other. That's what always happens when things don't go. People start,
Yeah.
when things fall short of expectations. It's time to redefine, is the line in one of our songs, and that's what happened.
Right.
yeah.
Well, now we have new material, which is crazy. Would you have ever thought back then there would be Effigies new music in 2024, 2025?
Back then it's hard to even
Yeah, I mean, we got
think
to
you
the
would
point
make
again
it
we
this
wanted,
far. I mean,
right?
I'm sure you have a hard time thinking you're going to be like in 65 years old,
Yeah.
but I think to me the greatest thing is that we're relevant today more so than ever,
Right.
and thank God that we made it this far,
Yeah.
to get to enjoy a little bit of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
But never would have thought that we'd be
definitely.
putting out new music, let alone on vinyl. That's the
Right.
biggest threat.
Right.
Then we went full circle back to vinyl.
It's
Yeah,
back.
that's right. Yeah.
That's funny. Um, what are your thoughts on the idea of people calling it punk or hardcore, post-hardcore, all these labels that people like to call certain
Yeah,
styles of music?
we're a band that's been impossible to label over the years. Um, I don't have a problem with it. Just as long as people say they're a great hardcore band or a great punk
Yeah,
band.
yeah,
Yeah, as long as that adjectives in there. So,
Right.
yeah,
um,
It's all rock and roll, you know. So
yeah,
and again, back when we were playing earlier, everyone was kind of like in their little tribe, you know. Everyone, if you were punk, you couldn't like metal. If you were metal, you couldn't like punk, or you couldn't
right,
like reggae, or you couldn't like this or that. It's
yeah,
like, it's ridiculous. You,
yeah,
you get influenced by a lot of different kinds of styles of music. You want to experiment with it and play with it,
yeah,
or you like it. Why, just
right.
this is cool. I mean, it's a lot of crossover now, and that's the way
I
it should
like
be.
the heavy metal disco. That's the one I like the
Heavy
best.
metal disco. Yeah, I mean, I always say, punk is rock and rock is blues, so punk is blues.
That's right. Exactly.
It's all the same stuff. That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, so you guys got the new album Burned Out, which is incredible. I love it. I've been listening to it a lot lately. What kind of sparked you guys kind of getting back together, writing some new stuff? Was it kind of over COVID, or how did that kind of happen?
Over COVID, a lot. I think a big inspiration was the death of Pierre Kenzie,
Right.
one of our many-year contemporaries. That when he died, we realized, oh my God, we ain't got much time left anymore.
Right, right.
It, it seems like 10 years went by really quickly,
Yeah,
and we said, you know what, maybe you get to a point where you gotta remember why you were mad or care anymore, but that you could put it all behind you to move forward. And
yeah,
I'm glad we did it when we did. Um, thank God that we got the album completed before John passed. Um, and the worst thing is he didn't get to really enjoy his best work that he ever
Yeah.
did.
Right. Right.
But
It's a fitting tribute to him, I think. I think I think we collectively are just really happy with this record.
yeah. And I know you guys did like a tribute show at the Metro, right? How did that go?
That was
right,
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah,
We had a
great.
lot of different bands come up and people from different bands come up and sing. And
Nice.
everyone was just a really great feeling. And, it was really a good time. It was a really good thing.
That's great. And then how many shows have you guys done so far after that album's come out? I know you did some dates with the Black Crows, right? That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that
I
was
think we've
pretty
now done
fun.
about 11 shows since Jeff joined the band.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, the Black Rose shows were really cool. Chris is a big fan of punk, and apparently he saw us play when we were down in Atlanta in the '80s.
Wow.
And the woman that was co-managing us, you know, reached out and said, "Yeah," and so we got 5 dates out of it. And those guys were they're
It's
awesome.
like
They're awesome
saying earlier how
like guys. Yeah,
back in the day when you like punk, you couldn't like anything else, and
Yeah, right.
we kind of felt that these guys aren't going to like us, but it's not. That's one thing that has changed for the better. The audiences today are more broad-minded and didn't fall into that. I can't like these guys because they're punk or whatever. And
Yeah.
their audience was very accepting of us.
yeah,
We were quite pleased.
yeah, and they're really gracious guys. So the whole entourage was just it was a fantastic experience. So
So cool. So cool. And then upcoming tour, you guys got the LA dates. Stoked for those. It's 3, right? I know you got the Saint Rock with Angry Samoans, right? That's
yeah,
pretty
so
Yeah,
awesome.
right. So on the 21st, we're playing the Whiskey, West
Wow.
Hollywood. The
Nice.
22nd, we're playing Hermosa Beach at the St. Rock.
Nice.
And then
that's
that's
San Diego.
and then yeah, then we're playing in the 23rd, May 20. This is all in May. May
Right.
23rd, we're playing the Fremont Country Club for the festival, and then we're back into San Diego on the 25th at the Holding Company.
Awesome.
Yeah, then we head home after that. We hit a couple of dates on the way home. So that's going to be a good time. I mean, we haven't been out in California and played in California for years and years. And I think
Yeah.
we're just really psyched to go out there and
And
play.
we feel this is going to be our first of hopefully many runs to the West.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah,
Love to hear it. Love to hear it.
right.
Um, what else do I got here? Steve Albini, how'd you guys end up having a relationship with him? I know he was a huge, huge figure, still is.
Oh, yeah, Steve, actually the relationship was mostly between him and John, and I believe they
Right.
met through Northwestern uh, University. Um, they both are active in the radio station there, and then um, Steve was very influenced by John. John was got him into do it your own, do it yourself
Right.
um, attitude, and she kind of influenced him to do
Right.
things himself. And there's the guy that really took DIY to the next level.
Yeah.
It's like
Right. We were basically, because we were like these core group of bands. It was like Big Black, us, and the other bands we mentioned before.
Right.
We kind of formed a kind of a collective, and we started our own record label called Ruthless Records.
Right.
So we put those bands out on that, and we did T-shirts, and then got the guys from Naked Reagan. They had the PA, so they would set up the PA when we did shows. So it's kind of a really collective group of bands,
Yeah.
together, forming the scene and kind of keeping it going until the next level. But
Yeah.
it was a great time. It was really, I mean, we slugged through it. It's like, slugging through it. But when you look back on it, we were really kind of blessed to have everybody in that scene. It was really
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Is the whole Ruthless Records thing kind of like, if no one's putting out our stuff, let's do it. We're gonna do it
That's what it
kind
is.
of
It
thing. Yeah.
was
Yeah.
exactly, exactly. And
Yeah.
then after,
no one was signing bands of our
Right.
nature back then. Um, so yeah, why are you going to sit and wait for something that's not going to happen?
Exactly.
right, you have to do yourself. And then people in the scene had fans. We had a fanzine we put out too. It was called Your Country Needs You. So that was a fanzine we had. And then we had The Coolest Retard, which was another fanzine out of Chicago. And so there was like people did fanzines, they did book shows, they, had the bands. But it was a small core group of people,
Yeah.
at the time.
So cool. What are some of your favorite bands you guys have played with, either now or back then? I'm sure there's a lot.
Oh, there's some great. We play with Pill. We played with TSOL. They're cool. We played
Nice.
with Social Distortion. We played with the Birthday Party.
Oh wow.
I
Run
mean, there's just so
DMC.
many, yeah, all different groups that the Circle Jerks. We play with Black Flag. A lot of these bands stayed at our John's house. We had this place called the Anarchy House, which was just an apartment. So all the bands
Nice.
from town would stay there, and we'd stay with them when we went out, when we traveled. So
The
We had
Anarchy
certain
House.
bands we did a lot of shows with. Strike Under was a band that we were very close with. Husker Du, we did a lot of shows with
yeah,
in the early days. Um,
Awesome. So
Out
cool.
west, Black Flag was good to us out there. Circle Jerks were real cool to us.
right.
Awesome.
Antipasti from England, we did a bunch of shows
Oh,
with.
nice. What was the Black Flag lineup you guys have played with?
It was
Band and all
Henry.
that.
Well, third time around was Dez, Chuck, Greg, and Robo, and then um, Dez would go to second guitar when Henry joined, I believe. And that was mostly, those two lineups.
Sweet.
Yeah,
So cool.
yeah.
So are you guys still like finding new music, going to shows, listening to stuff, or are you ever kind of like, I'm sick of listening to punk rock, I need something else?
Well, I definitely don't just listen to punk. I mean,
Yeah.
but I still listen to new music all the time. I'm constantly looking for new stuff.
Yeah.
I find a lot of stuff that I like from Argentina and from Norway and Finland.
Wow.
So my tastes are pretty eclectic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But there's still a lot of really good punk out there. A lot of the bands that we started out with have found new life because they never got complacent. We never made it big. We never made money, so we still got our angst. Instead of young, now we're angry old men instead of angry young kids. But it's out of that anger and that's what fuels a lot of punk rock.
Yeah. Yeah. What about you, Steve? You got any new bands you're listening to?
Well, I just, I actually, what I really like doing is going back to on YouTube and looking at some of the old stuff.
Right.
Stuff from like the 60s, early 60s and mid 60s and stuff. So that format, people hate the internet, but that format allows you to see there's so many cool old blues things being posted and
Yeah.
concerts being posted that have been around, we've been just sitting in someone's archive somewhere.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's crazy. I can go and watch like a concert of the MC5 or something like right
right,
now.
exactly.
Right.
It's so cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm always trying to look for new stuff too. Sometimes I get a little overwhelmed on the streaming service platforms because you have like infinite possibilities of what to find, what do you guys think about the whole streaming service stuff compared to physical music?
Well,
I've
I like it a lot because I'm lazy. I mean, the thought of actually putting a record on and getting up and changing songs and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the reason they invented other stuff. So we never had to do that again.
Yeah.
So I like having, the streaming service. I get it actually for free.
Nice.
A lot of times I'll make a playlist and the algorithm will find stuff similar and sometimes they're right. I found a lot of new bands that way by letting that algorithm pick. So if I'm a little more open-minded, like
Yeah.
a lot of my generation hates it just because it's new and
Yeah.
but I find the fact that it's a double-edged sword because you can't really get to the money is not there what it is, but you're also
Right.
people in New Zealand can now listen to the Effigies or somebody in Finland or Argentina.
Yeah.
And when you see that actually people are listening, you can get a breakdown and where they're at. It's like,
Yeah.
well, you're never going to reach those markets any other
True.
way.
True.
So
yeah,
it's a double-edged sword, and
yeah.
we're not looking. The thing is, we can't be disappointed because everything here is a bonus for us. Everything we do now is like gravy on.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have a whole different attitude about it, and we're not looking to be selling out arenas.
Right. Right. About you,
Do our
Steve?
thing, have
Thoughts?
fun doing it.
We're just,
Yeah.
we're happy to be playing, put it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, that's awesome. So, Laughing Man, you guys were
Laughing
both a
Man.
part of that.
Yes, we were.
Yeah, the Laughing Man started with me and Steve and Andy Gerber, who's now playing guitar for the Effigies, started that band.
Right.
Steve had to do other things. We played them with a girl, Tina McDonald, we've lost contact with, but that was a short-lived band. But we had some minor success. It was a fun band, and
Right.
the best thing about it is we started a relationship with Andy that still exists today. So
Right. Awesome. Then another random question I ask everyone. Steve, are you the one coming up with the set lists? Because it always seems to be drummers. Or
Yeah,
no.
actually, in this go around, we have Jeff now. Jeff, we've kind of given Jeff the go ahead to kind of pick the set lists, and he puts it together, and then we look at it and we jam it out and play it, and then we determine what should come in.
and a lot of it has to also that he plays guitar on about 75%. So we try to do it. So we do songs that he's not playing guitar on in a row, and
Right.
So
You try to mix it up so you can kind of interact with the crowd a little bit more, on the songs he's not playing guitar on.
Cool. Awesome. What are your guys' thoughts on like scenes that kind of came out, kind of spawned from the punk stuff, like the whole grunge stuff, Seattle, all that.
Right.
Bands that kind of took punk and I don't know, changed it up a little bit. Did you guys like when you guys were hearing that stuff? What were your thoughts on it? Like I don't know, bands like Mudhoney or all that stuff. were you fans of it, or is it kind of different
Oh
for
yeah,
you?
I mean, I love a lot of the '90s stuff like Fake No More and the Chili Peppers
Yeah,
I mean,
and Nirvana,
they,
all
what's
those
up, Steve?
bands were influenced by us.
well, I mean, those bands, a lot of them were influenced by punk, but I think and they had the energy of punk, but I think they were trying to get back to being Led Zeppelin again too, you know.
Right,
So,
right, right.
you
Yeah,
know, it's cool.
yeah,
They made some great music, but
yeah,
it was a different thing, you know.
yeah,
I liked a lot of it. Yeah.
yeah. And then, how'd you guys get into drumming and playing bass? Was it just when you were kids, just jamming it out in the garage, or was there someone that inspired you?
Um, yeah, I was a huge Black Sabbath, Alice Cooper guy, and I learned pretty much bass, picked up the bass from listening to Black Sabbath, and I had a friend that was on guitar, so I played the bass. And
Nice.
when I met Steve, he was already playing drums, and we said, well, we should get together and work on stuff, and it grew from there.
Yep.
Right. I mean, when I was growing up, I played trumpet and was in the jazz band in high school and all that. And what intrigued me was really the drummers. So like I was always intrigued by the drummers. And every time we'd go out to like we had these competitions, I'd look and see all the different drummers playing. I wouldn't care about the trumpet players, and that's what got me into like really wanting to play drums. And then after that, when the punk thing came about, I got a cheap ass drum set from my cousin, and I started playing along to records, and that's how I just started playing to that. I mean, I wore out the Clash first two Clash records playing that,
Nice.
learning the
Nice.
drum a little bit on that.
Awesome.
So
And then another thing about the new album. So there's a couple songs that are on there that you guys have had for a while. I think Guns and Ballots is one of them. Maybe there's one or two other ones. How did you guys end up deciding to record those? Were they just kind of sitting in the vault and yeah,
Actually, that's how it all started when Steve called me out of the blue and during COVID and said, with maybe you want to go in the studio and record Guns or Ballots, since we never did. It's always been on the table. It's
yeah,
always, and we never got it done. And another song called Everything's Coming Off, which is also on Burned. We're
right,
both songs from the 80s that we wrote. So we went in, we started this project with concentrating on getting those two songs done, and then it kind of blossomed from there.
yeah. Love it.
yeah.
All right, guys. Well, I think that's about all I've got. I've got a couple minutes before this free Zoom trial kicks me out, so I
Okay.
think we can
Oh,
we can wrap it up there. But yeah,
yeah.
thank you guys for being on the show. I really
Good.
appreciate it. Super excited.
Thanks for having us on.
Yeah.
And we'll see you in 6 weeks
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Take
show.
care.
So yeah,
or
thanks
less.
guys. I'll have it it'll play live on air this Wednesday at 9:30 Pacific Standard. So I can send you guys that if you want to listen or whatever.
Cool.
But yeah, so thanks again. I look forward to seeing you guys at the shows. I'll try to pack the clubs with LMU students.
Awesome.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right.
All
Well,
right, man.
thank you guys so much. We'll be in touch and hope you have a great
Okay.
rest of your day. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, man.
Thanks.
Have a good
Take
one.
Bye.
care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.